All right. So what have we been up to in the Pathfinder community? What's been cooking? So we've had two meetups in person in September. So one of them was in Pune on 20th, and on 13th we had a meetup in Hyderabad. Cool. Also, there is a special announcement for an upcoming Pathfinder event. Stay tuned till the end to find out how you can be a part of this. All right, so a few housekeeping rules before we dive into the web triggers and how they're used. This webinar is going to be recorded, and the recording will be shared after the event with people who registered for the event and the people who attended the event. All attendee lines will be muted, but if you have a question, please feel free to use the Q&A option at the bottom of your screen. And use the chat window in case you run into any audio or video issues. The information that we're going to be talking about in this meetup is confidential and proprietary and also subject to change. So please do not base any buying decisions on the announcements in today's dev meetup. All right. With that, I hand this over to Vineet.
Thank you, Shreya.
Yep.
It's encouraging to see that most of our audience members are aware of SharePoint and also using SharePoint in some sort of business workflows in their organizations. Hi team, my name is Vineet Pujari, and I'm here to talk about a very powerful capability which brings real-time responsiveness to your automation workflows. The name of that capability is Web Triggers. Most of you might have heard of Web Triggers. We launched Web Triggers earlier this year, towards the start of this year. And what are Web Triggers? Web Triggers allow your automations to be activated instantly based on external events, like a customer submitting a form or a system alert, or a webhook from another application, right? What it means is your automations don't have to wait for a schedule or somebody's manual intervention, right? They respond the moment something happens. So that's the power of Web Triggers. They are fast, and secondly, they do not need an infrastructure from your side to work. What that means is, if you've ever used our device triggers, some examples are, process triggers or Windows triggers, or hotkey triggers. They rely on a bot runner machine to be made available constantly by you, our customers. So you have to keep a machine on, and then that machine periodically checks for events like keystrokes or certain windows getting activated on your machine, right? Web triggers do not need any such infrastructure. They completely are hosted and activated or executed on Automation Anywhere's infrastructure, right? So those are the two main key features of Web Triggers. And the applications are numerous, right? Imagine a customer places an order on your website, and a web trigger can immediately launch an automation that can validate the order, update some CRM, process the order and send it down to the fulfillment pipeline. All of these in a matter of seconds, right? This is very valuable for use cases where domains like customer service or IT operations, supply chain, all these operations require speed and accuracy, which are critical KPIs for most of these operations, right? And also web triggers are secure, right? Any data that web triggers access, it is encrypted. It is data at rest is encrypted. Data at motion is encrypted. No personal data, PII, PHI, PCI, or any kind of data prohibited by GDPR is stored or processed. You can apply best practices to make sure that all your critical data is always secured, stored, and processed in compliance with all of the frameworks. Right? And web triggers, they integrate seamlessly with any kinds of applications like sales, like ServiceNow, like Outlook, SharePoint, the latest one, GitHub, Google Calendar, and so on, right? Jira, etc. So all in all, web triggers help you to move from a reactive automation to more proactive and event-driven automation. And I think it'll unlock new levels of efficiency and agility in this age of AI, right? On the slide, you see that they increase the efficiency, responsiveness, etc. You can use them in any of our automations, be it bot tasks, be it API tasks, or be it processes, right? And they are very easy to set up and govern, which I'll shortly show in a demo. Like I mentioned, we launched web triggers towards the initial part of this year, 2025. And since then, we have released a couple of packages, meaning web trigger applications. The latest being SharePoint. Now, SharePoint is available in the 8.38 release of Automation 360. And quick nugget, SharePoint is used by more than 300 million users across the globe. Just so you get the gravity of this metric, it's almost equivalent of the number of users on LinkedIn, right? So SharePoint is such a widely used enterprise application, be it for document storage or collaboration hub, etc. Almost every customer, every company finds themselves using SharePoint, and hence what we are doing in 8.38 is we are trying to make life easier for you around SharePoint workflows. Um, any file that gets added to a SharePoint folder or a document library, or any file that get moved or deleted or updated, etc., or even SharePoint lists for that matter. You have a lot of lists in SharePoint. Any changes to that list can be immediately tracked by web triggers, and you can act immediately upon those changes, right? Um, I'll be talking about a very interesting use case later part of the demo today, uh, in which SharePoint is central to detecting incoming applications, loan applications, and also how we use AI agents to process those loan applications and achieve what was not possible before, right? So let's go to the next one, Shreya. Okay. I've noted here some of the common use cases for web triggers, specifically SharePoint and other kinds of SaaS applications. One is real-time document change notifications. Every time a document gets updated on SharePoint, we can notify somebody on Slack or any other collaboration tool. Second one is you can automatically sync data with external systems. Imagine somebody uploads, an invoice document to your SharePoint library. Now you can immediately sync this document with your system of record or a CRM application or an ERP application immediately. You can do approval workflows. You can start approval workflows whenever critical documents are submitted on SharePoint. You can also record every update to financial documents using the audit trail system. And also you can do dynamic metadata enrichment, which means every time a document is updated, you can take its metadata and update it in another system of record based on some analysis, right? These are some common use cases for web triggers in general and SharePoint in specific. The demo that I'll be talking about today is about how do you change the lending process for micro, small, and medium enterprises. Lending is very different. It's a huge ball game, and it differs for small enterprises, it differs for medium enterprises, it differs for large enterprises, it differs for individuals, right? Now, the lending process for medium and small and micro businesses or enterprises differs from country to country. And in this case, let's take the example of a developing country where entrepreneurs are building certain products. maybe they are manufacturing them. And in order to manufacture these products, they need some capital, like growth capital, right? And they apply for credit or loan to these lending companies, right? Like lenders. Now, traditionally, lenders used to look at certain financial ratios or financial numbers, credit ratings of these entrepreneurs, and then make a decision based entirely off of those, financial numbers or ratios. But given we are in the age of AI, we want to do things differently, right? We just don't want to follow what was done until 2023 or 2022, right? Things have drastically changed in the last 2-3 years. So let's see how we can use the latest technology offered by AI, as well as the latest technology offered by Automation Anywhere in form of web triggers, to change or reinvent the lending process, right? Um, Before I talk about the story, let me quickly show you our SharePoint web trigger and a quick demo on that, and then let's get back to the main demo about lending, shall we? So thumbs up if you are aware what is an API task. Would love to know. I know all of you know bot tasks, but if you know what are API tasks, please give a thumbs up. Thank you. I see a lot of those. All right. Now, first of all, SharePoint web triggers are compatible with both bots as well as API tasks. So that's good news. Um, in this demo, what I'm going to do is I'm showing you the API task editor. You can just log into your control room, click on create and select API task. And this is where you'll land, right? And if I go over to the trigger section, all of these are the web triggers that are supported today, right? And SharePoint being the latest, right? And if I drag and drop this SharePoint web trigger, what you see here is um, the configuration of SharePoint web trigger. It needs basically two things. One is the connection to your SharePoint instance. And the second thing it needs is what site do you want to connect to? What folder do you want to monitor? And what event do you want to listen to? It can listen for a file event. It can listen for a folder event. It can also listen for a list events, right? Like list item updated, created, etc. Right? So it can listen to all of these types of events that are happening inside of a SharePoint folder, SharePoint file, or a SharePoint list, right? Very simple. Um, you would simply create an OAuth connection in the control room, which is the navigation for which is, if you go to manage and OAuth connections, this is where you'll set up an OAuth connection, right? Let me quickly show you the OAuth connection I've set up here for SharePoint, right? So this is my OAuth connection for SharePoint. Basically, I supply my client ID, my auth URL, token URL, and scope, right? And then I test the connection. The moment I test a connection, the control room grabs an access token from the SharePoint, in this case from Azure or the Entra portal, which is the latest name of it. And it makes sure that this access token never expires. It's always current. It keeps it always current by looking at the expiry time frame, right? And then it makes use of the refresh token to actually keep the access token always current, right? So once you have this set up, all that you would need to do is come back here in the SharePoint web trigger, just select the SharePoint OAuth credential that you've set up, and then that's it. And the rest, you simply mention, the site where you want to listen to, and select the event that you want to listen to. I want to listen to file create and file updates on, document slash meetup folder, which is there on my SharePoint uh, list, SharePoint site. Let me actually bring up my SharePoint site as well. Right, this is my SharePoint site, as you can see, and I have a folder called meetup _7 _October inside of my documents library. So that is the exact value that I place here in the folder path, right? And then I can also create a variable and then what this variable does is it holds the payload of the event that happens every time I create or update a file in SharePoint. Right? Now, as simple as this, right? All that we did was we created an OAuth connection, we selected it here, and then we just configured the SharePoint site, the folder, and the event that we want to listen to. I hope this removes all of the technical complexity that some of you selected in one of your poll questions, right? Um, Also, do let us know if we can make it more simplified. If you think so, we could, right? You see these buttons here. These buttons allow you to connect to SharePoint, look at all of the sites that are available, and then select the site. Like it's like a discovery, right? You might have used this option in other packages like Apigee or SAP, BAPI, etc. Right? This is the same operation that allows you to uh, connect to the underlying application, discover various options, and then select it. Because sometimes you don't remember the folder path. So what you do is you just click on this button. It shows you all of your SharePoint documents and folders, and then you pick one of those folders. So we've tried to simplify the experience quite a bit here. So I hope you will try this in your control rooms soon, and then give us feedback as well. All right. So that's the SharePoint web trigger inside of an API task. You can configure it exactly the same way inside of your bot task as well. Right. Now, next, what I want to show you is I want to show you the MSME lending process, right? We talked about. Um, so what you see here is a process, right? It starts with validating a business owner's credentials. What I mean by this, typically lending process, what they do is they validate the credit history, credit score, educational background of the entrepreneur. Similarly, here we are trying to validate all of those plus additional things which are not possible today by credit analyst because it takes a lot of time to do so many other background checks. Things like what industry is the entrepreneur operating in? What is the scope for that industry? How does that industry outlook look in 5 years from now, in 10 years from now? Because these parameters need to be considered if you want to do a better job at credit underwriting, right? If you just look at some financial numbers, that might not give you the complete picture. Because although sometimes entrepreneurs might not have the best of the credit ratings, but if you look at the product they're making, if you look at the industry they're operating in, if you look at their existing order book, if you look at the clients that they are ordering from this entrepreneur, if you look at the health or verify or validity of those clients, those customer base, gives you a much better sense of whether you should approve this loan or whether you should not, right? So that's what we call as a holistic credit underwriting. Typically, if you wanted to do this, if you're a credit analyst and if you want to do all of these kinds of background checks, it would take you at least 1 week, right? 1 week for one application, which is not possible in reality, right? You can't spend um, 1 week for one application when you have hundreds of applications to process every day, right? So what you typically do is you end up rejecting such applications, which might be a huge success story for you if you had approved it by understanding the kind of risk you're taking. So that's what this new process enables you to do. It allows you to um, consider all aspects of the business owner, the industry, the futuristic outlook, the kind of product they're manufacturing, whether they need this capital for growth, because all of this will give you an idea whether this guy is going to take your money and build something useful and pay you back, or it will also tell you whether he or she will just take your money and just run away, will not return your capital, right? So what happens here is This step does business owner verification. This step does the industry verification and also financial ratios. And then we present all of those findings to a manual um, credit approver, because at the end of the day, you don't want this to be fully autonomous, right? You want the human user to come back, because now using the AI system, you've reduced 5 days of effort into a couple of hours. Now your credit underwriter can come in, take a look at the summarized data. He or she, they have all of the inputs in a summarized manner, in a structured summary, which allows them to click on an approve or a reject button with more confidence, right? At the end of the day, this is minimizing your risk. There is some amount of risk involved, but hey, credit underwriting is all about calculated risk taking, right? So let's look at this, how this process should work end to end, right? The process begins when you receive a loan application, right? And how do you receive the loan application? It could be through emails, it could be through, if you are a bank, you expose some sort of a web portal to your applicants. They submit the web application on the web portal, and then maybe the document comes and sits in your SharePoint, right? Which is our demo today. Now, the moment the document comes and sits in a SharePoint library, what happens is this API task, it it is watching that document library in SharePoint, right? The moment it detects that document, it is going to kickstart, it's going to get deployed, and it's going to start a process called MSME loan process. This is the same process which we saw a couple of seconds ago, right? And this process starts doing its thing, right? It proceeds from stage to stage. Look at the business owner's credentials, look at the industry, look at the financial ratios, prepare a summary, and put that summary in front of a human user for them to make a final decision, right? So let's do that. What we'll do now is, let's head over to event triggers page here. So event triggers is the page where after you created your bot or your API task with a web trigger in it, you check it into a public repo, and then you would come here and then you would simply create a new event trigger. You would select, your event trigger here. I mean, you would select your automation, either bot or API task, like that, right? Select it. And then you would select a run as user. In this case, let me select my name. All right. And the moment you say add event trigger, what happens is, um, this event trigger starts listening to that folder that you've configured inside of the automation. Now, every time you drop a file in that folder, this gets activated. It gets triggered. It does whatever you've defined inside of that automation, which in this case is it triggers a process. It takes the event data from the trigger, and then it passes that event data to the process, so that the process gets to know for which business owner and for which industry do I need to analyze and prepare a summary for, right? So that's what happens. So let's do this. So let's go ahead and drop a file in the SharePoint library. So I have a loan application here, right? I upload my loan application to this SharePoint folder here. And what happens is, in a few seconds, the API task or the bot that you've defined in the event trigger will start running, and it will trigger the process, right? Now, if I go here, you would see some historical bots here, right? So this is one such bots which started as soon as you dropped the file. As you can see, there are just 3 lines here, right? First line is start the process. Next, we have a couple of exception handlers, right? So it has completed, it has triggered the process. And now if we go and take a look at the process here, if I run it from here, Uh-oh, something's wrong.
That's okay. There's at least one of these glitches in live demos. So we're
Yeah,
all
looks
good.
like my file doesn't exist there.
Oh,
Surprise me. I may have checked it in, which is why it no longer exists in my private repo. So let me go ahead and bring it back to my private repo.
yep, looks like it is.
Check out this process, right?
Yeah.
And now I can open it and I can run it here, right? Um, I have in this demo, I have hard coded some values like who is the business owner and what industry they are operating in. It's a person called Rajesh, right? Now, this is what happens. This is the view that the credit analyst gets, right? After the process has completed doing all the analysis about the business owner and the industry. So it presents such a structured summary here. It says loan evaluation summary for steel core industries. Steel core was the document that we dropped in to the SharePoint site. If you recall, here we go, steel core loan application. Um, it has brought some information about the product, the industry, the client base, etc. As you can see, um, this guy produces high efficiency blast furnace for steel production, you know, and the industry domain is core manufacturing, steel and metallurgy. The client base is a verified clients. These are all verified. They are not dummy. The order book is validated. So they are all genuine customers wanting to buy these blast furnaces, right? And these are some well-known names, at least in the Asian region. Um, and the entrepreneur profile is this. They are a BTech from metallurgy from one of the premier institutes in India. They have 15 plus years of experience in steel manufacturing and no financial red flags, right? And these are some of the financials of their company so far. In FY24, the revenue was this much. EBITDA margin was 18%, which is quite healthy in this manufacturing industry. And the debt to equity ratio is 0.6, and GST and IT filings are all up to date. So we have pretty decent guy here. Looks like if we approve this loan, he's not going to go and run away, right? Because he needs this money for growth. And also they have a technology edge. They have a proprietary furnace design for which they filed a patent. And their market position is they are a niche player and they're growing footprint. And also they're on their way towards becoming a leader in that sector, right? Risk mitigation. How do we mitigate risk if I were to apply this loan application? It says insurance coverage for plant and machinery, uh, environment compliance certified. So this person has already does have an insurance on their plant, right? And they also have a compliance with respect to the ESG or environmental safety. So the AI is also giving a recommendation, right? So how is it doing it? I'm sure you've heard of AI skills, right? So we create an AI skill, we power it up with model connection, be it Azure, OpenAI, Google, Claude, Gemini, anything. And then we give it a very good prompt in which we supply all of these, the information as input variables. And then we ask the skill to give this kind of a summary and also a recommendation. So the recommendation provided by the AI skill here is this is a strong candidate for loan approval. It has stable cash flows and credible leadership and poised for growth, right? Only thing that stops me or worries me a little is the CMR score, which is like, the credit score. It is below threshold. If I did not, use my AI agents to do all of this summary, I would have straight away rejected this application, right? But now I can take a calculated risk. I know that this guy is going to pay me back, and also I have a recommendation from the AI engine. So probability of default is low, although the CMR score is below my threshold. My threshold happens to be 750, but it's 699. But traditionally, I would reject it, but I'm going to approve it. Yay. And then hope for this entrepreneur to be successful so that I can create a success story for them as well as my company. And yeah, help build this business and also take the country forward.
Yeah. Love that. Love how you're taking calculated risks. And also, this is a great example of when to put in a human in the loop, because in this process, I think this stage would be kind of like the point of no return, right? Like you would, like if you don't, um, like if you let AI take the decision about final steps, like finally do I approve or finally do I reject, that would kind of be like there's no going back from that. So I feel
Absolutely.
like human intervention here would be critical for the business as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, typically, if I were to reject this, I would expect one of my supervisors to go ahead and take a look at all the rejected files, right? And they would have to do all of these this research. They don't do it for each of the rejected applications, maybe 1 out of 100 or 1 out of 1,000, and then they would find, and then maybe they would this would get approved in the second level. Um, but I think we are going there. Autonomous AI agents are taking us towards 100% automation. But like you mentioned, when it comes to financial risk understanding, you must always have a human at some point, which happens to be at the later stage and not at the initial stage, because you want all the grunt work to be done by the AI, so that as humans you can do the creamy layer work, which is approve or reject based on data.
Mm, cool. Great insight there.
All right, so I hope this gives you an idea of how to automate SharePoint using web triggers, and also how to tie them back to various aspects of our Automation Anywhere platform, be it integrating with other applications, leveraging our AI Agent Studio to build smarter algorithms or smarter automations, and then combining all of these to bring real return on investment to your business, right? Because this is real ROI. If I'm able to do something which I was not able to do earlier, even in 5 days, in a couple of hours, that's ROI. That's productivity ROI. But the bigger benefit here is this is allowing me to create a success story for my business, which was not possible before. I'm cherry picking a loan application which I would have straight away rejected in the past, but now I have an opportunity to turn that around into a success story. So such ROIs are only possible in this age today.
Shreya and Vineet, thanks for this demo. My question is from security and governance perspective. Web triggers can be exploited if not properly validated, leading to unauthorized process execution. How do we implement secure webhook validation and/or token-based authentication if needed?
Yeah, great question, Sanjay. Thank you for that. You're right. Web triggers can be really exploited if they're not governed, controlled, secured, or protected, right? Now, web triggers in Automation Anywhere, they how we think of them is they allow you to surface information, right? Whenever an event happens, web triggers allow you to surface the information about that event to your automations, right? Now, surfacing information is just grabbing something grabbing a news that happened and handing it over to an automation, right? Most of these web triggers, how you can secure them is by of course you'll create some kind of a client, right? For example, for SharePoint, if you create a connection with SharePoint Entra, Microsoft Entra, you would have to create a client there, and you would have to give it certain scopes are nothing but permissions that this client will have access to. What can it do? Can it only listen to a folder? Can it modify a folder? Can it do everything on that folder, or can it do only read only access, right? So scope controls all of the activities that your client can do or your client ID can do. So that's your first level of control, Sanjay, I would say. Create clients, give it permissions that are just required for your use case. Do not give permissions over and above, over and beyond what is required for your use case. So that's the first in terms of scope. Second is, like you alluded to, token-based authentication, right? Um, we support OAuth 2, which is considered as the most powerful kind of authentication and authorization protocol over there. Um, you could set up OAuth connection from our control room, and you also have a second level of check who in the control room gets access to use these OAuth connections inside of their automations. We have role-based access control. You can define a custom role. You can add one creator, two creator, or as many creators as you need who will have access to that OAuth connection. Only these creators will then be able to reuse this OAuth connection inside of their automations, right? So you have control both in the service provider, which happens to be Microsoft in this case for SharePoint, as well as in the automation platform, Automation Anywhere, in terms of role-based access control for OAuth connections. The third level of control that Automation Anywhere offers is our credential vault. Only administrators have to set up something like the client secret in a vault. No other creator will be able to see the secret. They can reuse it based on the role they're assigned, but they'll not be able to view the secret through their eyes. So, which happens to be a third level of check that you can enforce. And I think using these different kinds of scope, role-based access control, and credential vault, using combination all of these, you can achieve, the required level of governance and security that makes web triggers safe to use.
All right.
You're welcome.
Oh, I just announced this. Like, all right, very dramatic exit by the Q&A slide. And I'm gonna talk
Loved
about
it.
the upcoming events that we have now. So I know what you all are thinking. When is the next dev meetup? It is on 30th of October. Yep, this month we have two virtual dev meetups. And if you haven't already, go ahead and sign up for that. We will be taking a deep dive into conversational automation. Not already, please do subscribe to our community events page, because you will, like, when you subscribe, we will send you an email when a new event is published. So again, in the spirit of event-based, event-based triggers, event-triggered automations, as soon as you subscribe to our event, you'll get an email when we post a new update. You'll get a push notification in your email. And we also have linked our link tree, which gives you information about what our upcoming events are, what our chapter events are, what product clubs are happening, what user groups or dev meetups are happening. So finally, Pathfinder Summit is happening on 18th from 18th November till 20th November. So time around, we have two tickets. So there's a general admission ticket and there's an all access pass. And the all access pass includes exclusive sessions and workshops with Automation Anywhere experts, early access to hands-on sessions, complimentary advanced certification, which is normally worth $80, and then a limited edition Pathfinder Summit swag pack, plus a digital copy of the Pathfinder playbook. So all of that is included in the All Access Pass. With that, we come to the end of the Dev Meetup, and we hope to see you at another Pathfinder event very soon. As I said before, there's one happening tomorrow. No pressure, but the links are up on the community. Hope to see you at the Pathfinder Summit as well. All right. Thank you everyone for joining us. See you again. Bye-bye.
Thank you all.